Hello everyone and welcome back to another Singaporean review. So today I'm reviewing the 420 Cali Watch from Hong Kong microbrand UNDONE. Now the 420 Cali was introduced as a gag last year, and as I'm sure some of you guys know, it sort of references the cannabis culture or smoking marijuana. So according to Google, because I'm no expert in smoking weed, 420 is cannabis culture slang for marijuana consumption. So smoking around 4:20 p.m. or the celebrations that take place annually on April 20th. So this may be introduced as a joke, but is it any good? So let's take a look at the specs first. So unlike some of UNDONE's cheaper watches, this actually uses a Lexan polycarbonate crystal, which is more durable than the K1 crystal found on some of your lower price UNDONE models like the Urban Vintage chronograph, for example. So UNDONE describes the Lexan polycarbonate as a polycarbonate thermoplastic that's found in headlamps or motorcycle helmets. So it's supposed to have 250 times the impact of glass. So it's supposed to be highly impact resistant, more scratch resistant than your usual acrylic or mineral crystals, but definitely nowhere near as resilient as your sapphire crystal. But being domed, you can see that the crystal has like a dome effect to it. The Lexi polycarbonate gives the watch a retro feel. Now moving on to the movement. So underneath the hood of this watch is the workhorse Seiko NH35. So some quick specs for those who are unaware. So the movement beats at 3 Hz, has 42 hours of power reserve, contains 24 jewels, and is hacking. So I'm a big fan of, let me see if I hold it closer to the camera. I'm a big fan of the Seiko NH35 movement, and I greatly prefer it to the Miyota 8 series movement. That's because the NH35, unlike the Miyota 8 series, the Miyota 8 series are non-hacking, sometimes suffers from like a stuttering second hand. And in my own personal experience with Miyota the 8 series movement sometimes can be prone to accuracy issues as well. In contrast, this is as reliable as they come. So I would say the NH35 is sort of like the best movement that you can find in watches under 300 USD, for example. However, it looks like what we have here is a bare bone movement. So you can see unfortunately that even though there's exhibition case back, there's not much decoration of any sort. You don't get a custom rotor, you don't get any decoration on the base plate of the movement itself. So that's a shame, but overall, it's a decent movement, if not pretty. So the 420 Cali comes on 2 strap options. So it comes on this green Cordura strap or metal bracelet. Between the two, I prefer this green Cordura strap. I prefer, I like the textured elements that you can find, that you can feel actually on the green strap. And I think the green of the Cordura strap matches, obviously the green dial and the green watch perfectly as well. And this just more in line with the entire marijuana weed theme than the bracelet version. In addition, the bracelet version costs 80 USD more, so I think that premium is a bit steep, and if you ask me, I don't think it's worth the increase. So I'll definitely stick with the Cordura strap for sure. Now, the 420 Cali has Loom as well, which I'll pop out a Loom shop here. So even though UNDONE doesn't really specify what Loom it uses, it's bright enough, and I think you should have no issues telling time in the darkness with this. Overall, I would say that the 420 Cali has decent specifications for the price. It's definitely better than your cheaper UNDONE watches like the Urban Vintage, for example. And this watch feels decidedly more solid in the hand. That being said, no one's going to buy this watch because of its specifications. Instead, it's the quirky and fun tribute to weed that will appeal to most buyers. So as its name suggests, the watch is a tribute to marijuana, and as such, it features certain elements that celebrates weed. So apart from its all-green aesthetic, which as we all know is the in thing nowadays, at least judging by the Watches and Wonders releases, the 420 Cali has a marijuana leaf at the 12 o'clock. It's sort of like applied, almost like an art form sort of thing. So very detailed depiction of the marijuana leaf. While the numeral 4, which is also coincidentally at the 20-minute mark, is bolded in green. So obviously this is a reference to 420, this is a reference to weed. But that being said, even if you're not a fan of weed, or even if you've never smoked weed before like me, although the premise of the watch may sound gimmicky a bit, the dial is actually very nice. So for one, let me bring this closer to the camera. There is a brilliant waffle dial that is rarely seen in today's watches. The waffle pattern, catches the light beautifully and provides an intriguing texture that is eye-catching. So I like the various retro aspect of the watch as well. Especially I know this may be divisive, but I like the faux patina on the indices, and I like the faux patina on the bezel as well. And things like the railway mini pad and the dial's California layout. I think there's a very strong vintage vibes here combined with the dome Lexi polycarbonate glass. So overall, I think the watch succeeds in its marijuana attributes, but also, it's, if you take that apart, it's also eminently striking due to the green aesthetic and the retro aspects of the watch that you have here. So definitely a very nice looking watch, even when you disregard the marijuana references. Now, the watch also has a green bidirectional bezel, which is fitted with K1 crystal for added scratch resistance, and it possesses like a sleek look. So you can see it's like a very clean, very sleek look that I think complements the aesthetic of the dial. I like the inclusion of 5-minute markers, which weren't present on the original base cam that this watch was based upon. So as such, a bezel is now functional and you can utilize it to keep track of elapsed time, for example. However, this is bidirectional, by the way, so you can rotate it in both directions as well. However, Untitled has smartly decided not to include like a graduated bezel, as you mostly see on dive watches, and therefore the watch overall has a very clean, very minimalist look. And like I said earlier, the markings on the bezel are faux patina as well, so it remains thematically congruent with the rest of the dial. Now let me just put this on my wrist and show you guys how it wears. Alright, let me now do a slow wrist roll. Wow, look at that. It's really very eye-catching. It really pops on the wrist due to the green colorway. Really very nice. So at 40mm wide, the 420 Cali hits like the perfect sizing sweet spot on my 7-inch wrist. I tend to like my watches best when they're like 39, 40. I think it just fits my wrist the best. It's big enough to feel modern, but small enough not to feel like too ostentatious or bulky, as some of these thematic watches tend to be. And although the 15mm, so on paper it's a thick watch, it has a 15mm thickness. A substantial part of that is attributed to the 3mm crystal. So it's not, it doesn't wear as thick as its specs might suggest. Although I still wouldn't wear this with a dress shirt, of course. But overall, I think I really like the aesthetic of this. The references to marijuana are quirky, but not like cliche. That aside, again, like I say, it remains a very alluring watch, I think, due to the waffle dial, the vintage touches, as well as the green hue, with green being like the in thing at the moment. This would definitely be like a conversation starter on a wrist. Alright, so in conclusion, I would say that the Untitled 420 Cali is ultimately a fun watch that will add a sense of humor to any watch collection. So the premise of the watch itself will already be a conversation starter, right? I can imagine many customers showing this off to their mates. However, even when you take away the marijuana inspiration, the watch is still inherently attractive due to its textured dial, the dome crystal, the vintage touches, as well as a clean looking bezel. And like all Untitled watches, the 420 Cali can be customized as well. So you can add like text on the dial, or you can have an engraving or a picture on a case back. So this makes like a perfect gift for your stoner friend. With decent specifications and an affordable price tag, I say that this was a timepiece that put a smile on my face every time I wore it. For those interested in this watch, you can use the promo code WASOSHOW for 10% off most watches from Untitled, collaborative and new launches excluded. After the discount, the 420 Cali can be had for about 306 USD or about 400 Singapore dollars, which I think is a good price for a well-built, sharply executed tribute to the world's most popular plant. Definitely a fun, affordable weekend watch, that's for sure. Alright, and that wraps up my review of the 420 Cali. If you're interested in this watch, do check it out on the Untitled website. The link will be in the description below. As always, if you like the video, do give it a thumbs up and do share around and do subscribe. That will mean a lot to me. Ciao!